Hello, so it's my birthday in about a week, and my mother-in-law kindly gifted me some money, so I'm going to spend it all on books. So I don't usually buy a lot of books like before I've read them. I usually read most of my books in the library, and then I buy like my all-time favorites. So I'm going to be doing like a combo of that today. I have a list of like books I've read and love that I want to own, and then also a list of a couple that I think are going to be like 5 stars all-time favorites, and so I'm going to buy those ones. So I'm going to Fairs Fair first, which is a used bookstore. I figure if I can find most of these books used, then that would be I'd be able to get more books. So I had to make a list because I came to Fairs Fair like a few months ago, and I was so overwhelmed by like everything there, and it's like once I'm confronted with all the books and all the shelves, I like can't remember a single book that I've read and loved. So I made a list of the books that I've read that I would like to get if I find them. Anything in the Veronica Speedwell series, The 7-Year Slip, Muted, Out There, A House with Good Bones, The Traveling Cat Chronicles, The Book of the Most Precious Substance, A Mind Spread Out on the Ground, Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead, Glory, Dial A for Aunties, Project Hail Mary, These Silent Woods, The Ugly Cry, Watch Over Me, and Sadie. And now as for books that I think will be 5 stars that if I find used, then that's great, or I might, some of them are newer, so I might have to pick those ones up, not from a used bookstore, but those are The Husbands, The Dead Romantics, Big Swiss, Monstrilio, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, Half a Soul, and Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. Yeah, those are the books that I'm going to be keeping my eye out for, and I'm going to go around to like a few bookstores today, and it's kind of like my birthday present to myself, getting books, and also being alone. Like I don't have my child with me right now, so it's nice to just kind of be able to go off and do my own thing. And yeah, so let's go.
I'm not the kind that takes away when it's over, and it's all for me. I'm fine pretending that you'll keep above water. Maybe you'll carry me. Maybe you'll carry me.
Okay, I just went to both fairs, and I think I'm done with the used bookstores now. I'm going to go to some non-used ones, but I got 4 things, and I can't tell if this is like productive or unproductive, but none of these ones were on like the book list that I made, that I read at the beginning of this video. And yeah, I find that especially with the fairs, they're so big and there's so much and there's so many sections, and I find that it's like really overwhelming. And when I'm book shopping, I'm like constantly like repeating the alphabet in my head. Like it's like I've completely forgotten the order of the alphabet, and I constantly have to be like A, B, C, D in order to know like where I should be looking for like what books. So I also found 2 things that I did really want to get. I found Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir and Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Cusatanto, but both of them were damaged. Like they had like the cover was coming up, or there was like a big rip in Dial A for Aunties, and I know it doesn't really matter, like it's on my shelf, like I'm not, it doesn't matter, like you're not gonna see it. I didn't want to buy a book that like was wrecked, I guess. I'd rather it be like really nice and beautiful. So anyways, I found these 4. I found Bunny by Mona Awad. This book is kind of like the Heathers. It's like, I can't even like explain this book, but the main character's name is Samantha, and there's this group of girls that call themselves bunnies, and it's kind of like a collective like we narration type, and it just gets really weird, and these girls are doing like a bunch of weird stuff in their like smut salon, and it's very unhinged, and it was very fun. I got How to Pronounce Knife by Suvankam Thamavongsa, and this is a essay collection. I read this a while ago. I honestly can't really remember like the tone of a lot of these or what these are about. I just remember that like I really loved it. So this is one that I would definitely reread. It's very short, and the essays in here are pretty short as well. So this is one that I will reread. So I'm happy to have this one. And then another one that I think I would actually reread is The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. And I talked about this one in a video that I made recently. If you like this, read this. And I think I comped this one to Station 11. So it's like kind of like a pandemic story, but it's not really about like the pandemic or the sickness. It's just more of just like, it's like vibes, no plot. And it follows like many different people and like POVs as there's kind of like the sickness that is putting everybody to sleep. And yeah, it was just like a kind of like eerie story. And then I wouldn't say this next one is like one of my all-time favorite romances, but I did have a good time reading it, and I saw it used and I couldn't really resist having it, especially because it's so popular, and that is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Good plot, good smut, no tropes I hated, and it's a cute cover. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go to a couple more stores now and see what I find.
1, 2, 3. Never been to California, never been to LA, so I'll stay home and write these songs, pretend I'll make it someday. My friends are getting married, they're all settling down, so I'll lay here watch the ceiling.
So the next place I went to was called The Next Page, and it was only like 2 minutes away from where I was parked, but there was so much construction everywhere, and there was a lot of detours and dead ends, and I ended up driving around a ton and having a really hard time figuring out where to park. And if I'd known that it was going to be that difficult, I would have just stayed where I was and walked there. But yeah, so I had to walk a little bit. Ignore how dirty my shoes are. And it was a really cool place. It was like the creakiest building ever. I'm gonna play you a clip just of like all the creakiness. So that was when I was in the basement in like the used section, and so everything above me was just like constantly creaking and so noisy. It was like a cool ambiance, but like at some points I was like, is like the roof gonna cave on my head? But anyways, I managed to find 6 things, 2 things I'd read and 4 things that I want to read. So I kind of regret a little bit of getting the books that I did at the other store, because there were a lot of other ones that I probably would have gotten, but I had already spent some money at the used bookstore. But either way, I think I would have wanted these books eventually. So yeah, so I ended up getting both The 7-Year Slip and Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. So I just read The 7-Year Slip and adding it to my all-time favorite books. This is about 2 people who meet in this apartment that's magical. It transports you like 7 years into the past. So Clementine has just moved into her aunt's apartment, and then Ewan is staying for the summer 7 years ago, and they meet in the apartment, and it's their romance, and it was very sweet and very cute. I find I love romances that have a speculative element, because you have that conflict without having to rely on tropes like a third act breakup and miscommunication. Someone just parked beside me and I feel awkward. Okay, I had to wait for them to leave. I also just filmed talking about all of these books, and then I realized that I had my little microphone in my cup holder, so the sound didn't sound good. So yeah, and then I also picked up The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, which I would have to double check, but I think that this one is her debut, and The 7-Year Slip was her second book. But this is about Florence, who is a ghostwriter, and she's like clashing with her new editor, and then she goes back home after her father dies, and she goes to like a funeral, and he is dead. I don't know. So he's like a ghost, and I don't really know how that's gonna work, a romance between her and a ghost, or if he's like metaphorically a ghost. I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. And then I also picked up The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. And there's someone beside me again, but I'm just going to roll with it. And I just really feel like this book is going to be 5 stars. There's something about this cover that is absolutely doing it for me. It reminds me of Nothing to See Here, Early Morning Riser, Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead, Less, Death Valley. And there's just something about, this cover that just is giving me the vibes of those books. Also, I think that this has a 3.5 something on Goodreads, and there's something that just seems to work for me with books that look like this and are also rated really lowly. Yeah, that's literally all I'm basing it off of, but I just feel like this is going to be a win. And this is about someone who, this man comes down from her attic and says that he's her husband. She doesn't know him, but there's like photos in their house proving that he's her husband, and then he goes back up into the attic and a new guy comes down saying that he's her husband, and that just keeps happening. And I think that it's her kind of trying to figure out why this is happening, but also just like accepting that this is her reality and going through all these husbands. And it's also been comped to The Midnight Library, kind of similar conversations about having like these endless lives available to you and kind of figuring out, well, are you just going to keep living like this, or are you going to eventually just like pick one? And I didn't love The Midnight Library, but I still feel like this is just going to work for me. Next, I picked up Big Swiss by Jen Began, and this is about a woman who transcribes therapy sessions for this sex coach, and then she becomes enamored with this woman who she has nicknamed Big Swiss, and then she recognizes her voice out in the wild, and then their lives kind of become entangled. And the reason why I think that this is going to be a win is I've just heard that this is like satirical, and I've been really loving like satirical type stories lately, so we'll see about that. And last, I found 2 used books, one I haven't read and one that is a favorite. And Shark Heart by Emily Hebeck I haven't read yet, but I also think that it's going to be a 5-star. This is about a couple who just got married, and then he gets a rare diagnosis where he's going to maintain all of his consciousness and memories, but he's slowly turning into a great white shark. And I've seen some people crying at this, and I want a book to make me sob. I think I saw Make With Books cry at this. And there's just something about a book where like not all of the pages are full of text, where like it's a full-sized book, but it looks like it will be easy to get through. I love when the pages aren't fully full of words. And then last one of my all-time favorite books is Middle Game by Shauna Maguire, and I couldn't resist because it was $10, and I'm just going to read the synopsis because I honestly don't know how to describe this book other words. Meet Roger, skilled with words. Languages come easily to him. He instinctively understands how the world works through the power of story. Meet Dodger, his twin. Numbers are her world, her obsession, her everything. All she understands, she does so through the power of math. Roger and Dodger aren't exactly human, though they don't realize it. They aren't exactly gods either. Not entirely. Not yet. Meet Reed, skilled in the alchemical arts like his progenitor before him. I don't know what that word means. Reed created Dodger and her brother. He's not their father, not quite, but he has a plan to raise the twins to the highest power, to ascend with them and claim their authority as his own. Godhood is attainable. Pray it isn't attained. Yeah, I would be very interested to reread this because I just remember it being like a wild good time. All right, this is everything I ended up getting, and thank you for coming along with me for my birthday book shopping and book haul, and maybe I will see you again.